under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing? We're going to start this board meeting with a moment of silence for somebody who passed away, John Peterson, and after our moment of silence, Marita would like to say a few words. Thank you, Marita.
John Peterson died Thursday evening. He was an icon in this boardroom for many years and an icon for Calaveras County. He sat second row from the back, third chair in, and I believe Patty Shires sat on the first chair. John made sure that we did not have Brown Act violations on the board. I mean, he'd just speak out. John made sure that our documents were grammatically correct. He never came up to the podium. He always spoke from the back. We had, and I looked before board, we had a chair, a sign with his name on it when John sold the paper, the Calaveras Californian and Calaveras Prospect to the Enterprise many years ago. So John not only kept his finger on the pulse of the board and what we were doing or not doing and had no problem telling us. He also had been a member of LAFCO. He had been on the board of CCWD. He had been on the board of Calaveras Unified. He had been on the County Board of Education. Most important, of course, he had been a County Democratic Central Committee. Oh, that's right, we're nonpartisan. And there probably wasn't a thing that he hadn't done in McCollum Hill where he lived. So it's truly out of respect for John and his participation in the political process of Calaveras County, his actions in the boardroom, and to his wife, Eleanor, and his family, on behalf of the board and the public, we send our heartfelt best for what John gave us. Thank you, John. Thank you, Steve. Sorry.
Thank you, Marita. I know people in District 2 and McCollum Hill in particular are grieved by this loss, and this was a person who really just devoted his life to public good. He will be deeply missed. We now move to board announcements. There were no closed sessions last week, and today regular agenda item number 8 is being pulled from the day's agenda, so anybody here on the Mountain Ranch Road issue, that is being scheduled for next week. We wanted to make sure that there was time for the announcements to go out, not just to the immediate neighbors, but to the town at large, so that's being done as we speak, and that will come up in the morning of July 22nd. In addition to that, we have a correction before we consider the consent agenda. There is a misprint on item number 6, the White Pines Park. Actually, the minute order is to approve a 20-year lease, not a 10-year lease. So you'll find that that this is simply a misprint on the consent agenda, and that the actual document accompanying refers to a 20-year lease. We will now move to the consent agenda. These are items that are expected to be routine and non-controversial. Anybody in the room can take any of these items off for further discussion. Board, any items to be removed?
No.
I'd like to pull number 3, please.
Number 3 is pulled. Any member of the public or staff wish to pull an item for further discussion? I'll hear a motion on the balance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on 5-0. Item number 3, Russ.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The staff report here says that this is a very large list of equipment that's no longer serviceable. I haven't seen a list like this before since coming to the board. I'd like to ask Howard specifically whether, particularly these laptops, could they be refurbished? We have a fairly aggressive program going now to expand the use of the internet in the county and broadband outreach. So I'm curious about whether these might be, with little or no cost, be made serviceable for members of our county that might not have computers currently. There's a huge list of them. So.
I guess the question is, anything could be made serviceable. Again, it's the cost associated with that. So the items that we generally put before you for surplus and disposal are items that we've already worked through the county employees and have reallocated those assets as we can. So at this point, my staff is telling me that the items are no longer serviceable for county employees and have asked that I bring them to you for surplus and disposal. And I don't know that I truly answered the intent of your question, which is could they be available for perhaps the citizens or other people in the county. And that is something that the board really should address and create a policy on. I know other counties have taken a position that it is far too expensive to do that. You actually spend more than the product would cost by the time you refurbish it and you wipe all the all the software off and restore it to the version of the software that it was purchased with, and then provide it out to the public. It is actually far more expensive to do that than to do the thing that we're doing now. So if the board desires and wishes to create some sort of a policy, I'll certainly explore that with you.
Okay. Where will these go if we don't do something with them? They're just going to go in the county landfill?
If we don't do something with them, I can hold on to them. So they'll just stay in tech services.
No. I mean, this implies that they're no longer serviceable. They're going to be surplus. So, what does that mean? Do they get offered to the lowest bidder, or what?
No, the auction companies do not want technology equipment anymore. For whatever reason, they've determined that it's not profitable for them either. So, we actually enlist the services of Buildings and Grounds and take the equipment to Red Hill, or Rock Creek, I'm sorry. And they have a recycling program, to the best of my knowledge, an e-waste program.
All right, well, that sounds good. In reading through this list, I came across one particular listing about monitors, and I see the assistant assessor standing in the back of the room. A couple of weeks ago, you made mention of the fact that you were looking for a monitor, and would any of these be available to our assistant assessor?
Of course.
Okay. Maybe you should get together and talk to her about that. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move this item.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. We'll move to our regular agenda and open for public comments. We're asking people confine their remarks to 5 minutes per person and generally 15 minutes per topic. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and honorable member of the board. Randy Mesker, County Assessor. I'm pleased to announce we finally closed the assessment roll on Saturday or Monday, or a moving target, but I wanted to give thanks to my staff, who, of course, without them it wouldn't have happened. And also Pam Lundell from Howard's office was here most of the weekend, and we made it happen. My staff, with over one third of them, has only been here for a year, so it was quite a feat. And a good learning experience for them. We'll be mailing, to share some numbers with you, we'll be mailing over 5,000 value notice cards. Those are properties that actually will get the 2% increase. We proactively reviewed over 11,000 parcels with the downturn in the economy. Over about 5,200 of those have been reduced, and they'll be receiving notification in the mail for anybody that, any of your constituents that ask, probably within a month from now, August. Our workload, even though there's a downturn in the economy, our workload actually has increased because we have all these Prop 8 reviews to do. So, and we look at next year probably we'll have even more.
And the bottom line is?
Having said all that, I don't get up here very often. Come on. Yeah, that's exactly what it says. The bottom line is the combined total of secured and unsecured roll. We've been predicting zero growth. Actually, we have an increase of 0.79%, which is almost 1%. So.
What does that equal in dollars, Andy?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I will defer that exact question to the auditor, but I'll bet Bob has already has that figured out.
Well, I'm in the ballpark, but I prefer to get the numbers from the numbers person.
The auditor, yes. So,
yeah, it was an increase.
It was an increase, though, rather than a decrease.
Even in spite of all the downgrades and everything, there was still a net increase.
Barely, but yeah.
0.79.
0.79. So I'll make copies available to you guys this afternoon, the actual figures, and I have a news release, a press release to any press that's here. Leslie has. So, any questions?
All right.
Great.
Thank you. Just before you leave, I think there may be a couple of questions.
That's why I asked if there's any questions.
No, I guess I'm looking to Bob. We had 0% in the preliminary budget.
Correct.
So if we get 0.79, what is that? What's the impact on the county budget? Not in total dollars, but just the county's portion of that increase.
Supervisor Tryon, that's about $88,000.
About
plus or
$88,000.
minus.
Thank you.
Okay, and I did have a question which has to do with implications for next year. It looks to me as if you've reviewed a tremendous number of properties and that we may have gotten most of the adjustments out of the way in this year. Is it your impression that that's the case, or are we going to be facing similar numbers of reevaluations and possibly down
Well, the way Proposition A works is we have to review those 5,800 or 5,200 next year too. And
okay.
They may go up or down, so until they return to their factory base or value. So I would think if anything there'll be more.
I don't think that was the answer to the question.
Well, it's not the one I was hoping for.
Was the question, do we expect more to go down over the course of the year, or was the question, what do we expect next year?
Well, I wanted to know, given what you've already done, you reviewed 11,000. You made decisions to reduce 5,200 of those. In the coming year, would you imagine that the work you've done this year is taken care of a lot of this, or do we have a volume that could be expected to be similar or growing?
There's always the possibility that we may have missed a few, but we would not anticipate this number to grow significantly. What we did, as Mr. Metzger said, was we proactively looked for those properties that we were certain were going to have a decline in value, and we looked at those. If we missed some, then we'll have to look at those in addition. And then next year, if the economy continues to decline, that number will actually increase for the 2009 year, which is consistent with what your administrator's been telling you all along. This year's going to seem like a cakewalk compared to next year, both in terms of our workload and your dollars.
I would find it hard to believe that this year would look like a cakewalk in any regards, but thank you for those encouraging words.
Are you adding much to the rolls at this point, or is it basically stagnant?
The total dollars reflected by that 0.79% is about $55 million to a roll that's in excess of $7 billion. We're not adding much.
Okay.
So we're pretty just stagnant in the water. Yeah.
All right, there are other board questions. We'll start with Marita, followed by Russ Thomas.
Randy or Leslie, what were the parameters used to reduce the tax? I mean, was there, within the last 5 years or between X and Z amount? Thank you.
We looked at transfers and new construction that occurred between January 1st, 2004 and January 1st, 2007. The 2007 events were the events that were enrolled new for the 2008 roll, so we did not review those. Those are the events that we would expect may experience a decline for the 2009 roll. And if the value continues to go down, we may have to go back in time.
Okay.
But we identified based on market conditions where we thought the breakoff point was.
All right, thank you.
Supervisor Thomas?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I just would like to take this opportunity to make an announcement for people that are here and also people that might be viewing on the Comcast connection. I've been in discussions with our county assessor, Randy Metzger, and we have settled in on a couple of outreach events, one in Jenny Lind Firehouse on August the 6th, and then at the Copperopolis Firehouse on August the 13th, specifically for the purpose of explaining to people in those communities in District 5 what their rights and privileges are under this Prop 8 arrangement, where if they, it's quite obvious that the county has an obligation to reduce this tax burden when it's necessary. And I think that a lot of people are perhaps confused about how that works, and so rather than have each and every one of them call Randy's office, I've set these meetings up so that at least those people that have confusion about it or would like to know exactly how it works, they can come to this or these two locations and find out about it. So I don't know if Randy has they've been very gracious to make their time available on this. I want to thank you in advance for that, Randy. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if any of you else want that type of a setup, let me know.
Count me in for 3.
For 3? Okay.
Randy,
we'll talk.
Where are these spread throughout the county, or there's few in Ebbets Pass and Murphy's and more in Valley Springs?
We went all over the county, Marita, with those parameters.
But the actual reductions, do you find them having any regional aspect to them?
I don't know if we looked at that, but my guess would be that with a high-end Greenhorn Creek, Saddle Creek, Valley Springs area, and the higher-end properties, I would think would...
Miranda, aren't you talking about homes that are constructed recently, relatively recently, rather than homes that have been there for 30, 40, 50 years? It wouldn't have experienced the raise in taxes that the raise in market value would have.
Depending if they just sold, though, say in 2000.
So recently constructed or sold. Well, normally doesn't involve people that have lived in that same home for 20 or 30 years.
Right. They have a high base value because they recently either built or bought.
Yeah.
You got a comment?
The answer to the question about the regional effects, we found the highest drops in the west end of the county, and we also saw those had the most uptick when we were seeing the market go up. But we do have reductions, as Mr. Metzger said, throughout the county.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Other speakers on items not on the agenda?
Morning, Supervisors. My name is Larry Howen. I'm a resident of the Wallace Lake Estates in Wallace, California. My comment this morning concerns an initiative petition regarding the Wallace Community Services District that I and 2 other proponents filed with the County Clerk Recorder on April 30th, 2008. I understand that today is the last day that the board can act to approve items that appear on the November ballot. And so that's why my presence is here today, because this is apparently not going to show up on the ballot. To be brief, the initiative petition was circulated following the guidelines of California Elections Code, sections 9300 through 9323, and was certified as qualified on May 8th of 2008. The WCSD was notified of the initiative status on May 15th of 2008. So far, so good. At the June 12th, 2008 WCSD board meeting, the initiative petition was discussed and voted on. The board voted to not adopt the petition and also voted to not put the initiative on the ballot. The latter vote is not permitted by Elections Code 9300, as the board does not have veto power over the initiative. It is up to district voters to decide the issue. At this point, this thing gets totally insane. During the next week, in a conversation with the clerk recorder office, I was informed that the initiative would not be placed on the ballot. I was stunned. How was it possible that an initiative certified by the clerk recorder as qualified not be allowed on the ballot? The answer, I believe, is simple. The county council, whose sole task under Elections Code 9300 is to review and revise, if necessary, the WCSD attorney's, in quotes, impartial analysis of the initiative. The council received what was termed as a courtesy telephone call from the WCSD attorney. Shortly after the telephone call, the clerk recorder decided not to place the initiative on the ballot. Wow. Not only did the county council violate his duty under Elections Code 9300, he probably intimidated the clerk recorder not to do her job. The clerk recorder is not totally without fault and really should be my ally and advocate, not my opponent. While I do not know the nuts and bolts of bureaucratic procedure, I do expect that if I qualify an initiative for the ballot, that it gets on the ballot. I feel that my constitutional and civil rights have been trampled by these two county offices, and the democratic process of the law has been violated. These folks are making up the law as they go, ignoring the parts they don't like, functioning as judge and jury. None of this is permitted by Elections Code 9300. Today I ask that you correct this bureaucratic bungling and place this initiative on the ballot. Please instruct the clerk recorder to do her job as described by Elections Code 9300 without interference by county council. I know that this initiative is not on today's agenda. However, Brown Act Section 54954.2B1 and 2 allows you to place an item on the agenda if there is a need for immediate action. Again, in closing, I qualified an initiative for the November ballot, and I expect it to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Does this, I'm curious because we've had a number of issues that have come up from road committees, CSAs, CSDs, neighborhood associations, that where there were process issues that were in the domain of those jurisdictions, and I'd be interested to be informed about where the proper review of this would take place. Is it in the organization, or is it properly before the board? I would ask this of county council.
Thank you. The Wallace board had a decision to make whether to adopt the ordinance or whether to put it on the ballot. The Wallace board, on advice of their own independent, private, outside retained counsel, did neither for reasons that we don't know, as I informed each of you. By doing nothing,
Speaking to your mic, David.
by advising the Wallace board to do nothing, the outside counsel effectively derailed the petition, and so the petitioner's remedy is to go to court, get a writ of mandamus.
In relation to the association, not the county?
What? County has nothing to do with it.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. I think that is the direction for remedy on this. I'm not sure we even have the capability
Well,
of
that, sir, is not true, and he's making my point for me that he's making up the law as he goes along. The two options that the board has are to adopt the initiative as written without alteration, or to send it up for election. By ignoring that, they effectively cancel out the will of the people of the state of California that passed this initiative statute. And just, common sense would say, why is the initiative statute on the boards if a agency that is subject to the initiative, all they have to say is, we're going to ignore this, and the thing goes away. There's nothing in that statute, 9300, that says I have to sue anybody to get that on the ballot. That's insane.
Any response? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Before we move to another topic, is there anybody who wishes to speak on this particular topic?
Catherine Jackson. I'm also from the Wallace Service Community District. This was no naive circulation of a petition to the people who are the resident ratepayers and taxpayers of that community. Signed were 122, verified by Karen Varney, of 137 registered voters. Of that 122, 9 of us were past directors, 2 of those being long-sitting presidents of the Wallace Community Service District. There were underlying issues that were taken first to the sitting grand jury and ignored. We hope to resolve this fiscal management problem at a lower level. It wasn't done. It makes no logical sense that a council of a community service district can call a county and cancel out the voice of the people by a mere phone call. Were that so, no initiative or referendum could ever be enacted against the 45 special districts we have in this county. The county itself has no authority over a special district. In the case of a utility district like Wallace Community Service District, the state forms those special districts, and the state ordains that it is the people who have oversight in that sphere of influence to influence the board if it goes awry. So that's all I wanted to add to it.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I ask David a question?
Sure.
David, I'm a little confused here, because if you go to a petition process to put an initiative on the ballot, why does the governing board have a veto right over that? I mean, if it's, we have the initiative in the state that can override the state legislature. We can have an initiative process in the county that can override the board of supervisors, even if there's a majority that don't approve of the petition.
There's no such thing as a veto process. The law is very clear.
So explain that to me again. If the citizens get a petition and do it right, and get the signatures and get 122 out of 136 if this lady's comments were correct. But anyway, they get the signatures that are required to put the initiative on the ballot. And why does the Community Services District Board of Directors, how can they have the ability to say no? Or is that not what you're saying?
You'd have to ask their attorneys. They got legal advice to say no, even though the statute says
why are we acknowledging, why are we giving the district boards, how can the district board tell the county not to put it on the ballot if it's been correctly circulated and has the signatures?
Because the elections official cannot take any action unless the board of the special district takes the action to forward the matter to the elections official saying, please put this on the ballot. The elections official can't do anything unless their board tells her to put it on the ballot.
But that defeats the whole petition process. If the board, which is why they're doing a petition process, because the board is willing to vote the way a group of citizens would like him to vote. So they go out and get a petition and get the signatures necessary. It gets certified by the clerk. Then how can the board just basically say, don't put it on the ballot?
I don't know, Tom. You'd have to ask their lawyers.
No, I mean, I don't care what their lawyer says. Why does, if their lawyer says don't put it on the ballot and the board says we don't want it on the ballot, that defeats the point of having a petition process.
Exactly. And so if this was a county election and the county board, you guys decided to do nothing, then in a heartbeat somebody would have a lawsuit and be asking the judge to direct you to take action.
It doesn't mean you should have to have a lawsuit if you've done the petition correctly. That's just the law.
Tom, is the law about justice?
Well,
One hopes.
It's not. So, I'm just telling you, that's the way it's set up.
I'm short of dealing with this as a question of law. Supervisor Tryon raises a question that's as fundamental in some ways, which is how do you protect democratic process in these circumstances where an agency has clearly failed to make one of its two legal choices? And is there anything we can do as a board to encourage them to to allow the people of that neighborhood to have a say in their on this topic? I'm pretty disturbed about this course of events, recognizing that you're advising us that it's not our jurisdiction and that we don't have a legal role, but do we have another role that we should exercise at this point by voicing?
You can certainly send official correspondence expressing your displeasure or do whatever
All right.
you want.
Well, I want to say strongly that I feel that this hasn't been, I know very little about this, but I do know petition processes, and I do know that in this particular case they had only two choices and took neither. So my personal view is that they should be encouraged to make one of those two choices in a timely way, which means, I suppose, today. I don't know how that message could be conveyed, but I would certainly like to see it done timely. Yes?
I want to add a little bit that may. What happened in legal is Karen Varney went to legal. Legal responded back. She was sort of caught in the middle. We had asked originally, before we even circulated the petition, we had asked the election department to clarify certain codes, because as you read election code, it gets less restrictive. Fed, state, county, city, you go down to special district, and there's less restriction on a referendum. The problem was in the language of some of the codes. Any attorney would have been free, and we asked Karen Varney, get a legal opinion, because the word district council is used in places where they're really talking about county council or city council. And when you intermingle those, it makes no logical sense. We, as the ratepayer, would not have chosen to sue our own district. That's our dollar. That's what we were trying to protect in the first place. So no, we would not have chosen litigation. That's why you have an initiative. Legal counsel at county level seemed to choose that district had the power. The community service district attorney had the power to stop the county. We do not believe that's so, and that's what the whole confusion is about. But
Seems
as
to
of
be a basic
today,
disagreement here between two legal authorities. And my question is, oftentimes when you have a difference of opinion with authority levels that are more or less at a peer level, I'm wondering if, short of an actual civil suit, if there is some decision-making legal body that is independent of either the district or this county, realizing that even the Attorney General just has an opinion, it's not an order. Is there some other third-party legal entity that is empowered to make this not necessarily determination, but a definition here?
We
Because
went
we
to
seem to be at a loggerhead with opinions between two peer legal entities.
We went to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Private Association. They informed us they had sympathy with our issue, but they had limited legal staff and they were tied up in the courts already, one of them being the case in San Joaquin, very similar case you're reading about, that it would be well over a year to 2 years before they could give us legal opinion. So,
Have you attempted to contact the Secretary of State, or has either entity
no.
seemed to have the umbrella of authority over elections?
If this were to be resolved within, say, this week, is today really a drop-dead date, or is there any discretion to include something?
I don't know the timeline. I don't.
Okay.
You might want to call Karen. She would know.
All right. Thank you. Sir?
Just a couple things. I have repeatedly asked both the clerk recorder, and nobody will let me talk to county council because I'm just a citizen. I'm not a board member or anything like that. But I've asked the clerk recorder to show me where in that elections code 9300, show me a phrase or a passage that says anything anywhere remotely resembling what Mr. Sirius has said about a lawsuit, civil suits, anything. There is absolutely nothing. And the county does have a responsibility in this area because the county elections official is mentioned numerous times in the statute as having a job to do. She is to, number one, contact the district's, the WCSD district's attorney, and that attorney, because the WCSD is a water district, that attorney has the option to write an impartial analysis of the initiative to be printed with the ballot. That's his job. If he declines that, then that job goes to county council. County council also has a responsibility that if the WCSD attorney does write an impartial analysis, that county council reviews and revises that. That's his only job. After that, he has no job. He can't tell anybody in any other place in government what to do, how to do it, or anything. His only job is to provide impartial analysis of the initiative. And then the clerk recorder has to set dates, timelines, a number of other things, that go along with putting this thing on the ballot. There's not one word in there that says I or anybody else has to sue in order to get an initiative on the ballot. That's amazing to me.
All right. I have extended time on this due to the nature of the deadline today. Is there any other board comment at this point to suggest a remedy or an approach?
Whose district is Wallace Lake Estates in?
Mine.
Mine. Why don't you guys talk to Bill and
I have talked with Mr. Claudine.
Oh, have you? And with David, and because that strikes me as bizarre too. That once you've completed a legitimate petition process, that you don't have to go to court to see the governing board to get on the ballot. That may well be the law because it doesn't have to be rational. The state legislature did it.
I would like somebody to cite that law to me.
But that sounds rather bizarre to me.
Would that be a motion of the board to do that then?
We actually can't take action on a...
I think you need to talk to Bill and see if, where you go.
Well, if today is the deadline, you can't put this on the agenda.
Well, does the board have to have it on the agenda when you complete the petition process to put it on the ballot? Does that have to be done by the board, David?
The Wallace board?
No, this board.
This board doesn't.
If the Wallace board had said, put it on the ballot, would it come to this board then? Or
No,
would
this board would never see it.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be acted upon
No.
by this board. So
I was told that by the clerk recorder that this board listed things that went on the November ballot. That's the only reason I'm here. There's nothing in that statute that says the county board of supervisors has to approve anything. That sounds like it's an internal function.
Correct. Karen's job is all ministerial. She gets the certified copy of the resolution directing an election, and then all these other duties of hers kick in. But the Board of Supervisors doesn't really have any involvement other than when she brings in the packet saying which elections are taking place in the
But I know her job is ministerial, but it doesn't require action by this board for her to act.
No.
Okay.
I would ask that you instruct her to do her job as described in 9300, which she so far has yet to do.
I think she's trying to do her job. I think she's getting whipsawed a little bit here. That's from the sound of things.
Well, that's why she told me that she does not know what to do. And
So
she's the
looking for
elections
legal advice
official.
as to what
She's
to
in
do.
charge of running the election. If she doesn't know what to do,
Well,
I don't know.
she's not an election law attorney. So.
It really doesn't sound like Karen Varney that she does not know what to do. She's been there a long time. I'm sure that she had some dilemma here, and she exhausted whatever resources she could possibly find to make her decision. But I doubt
She
sincerely
told
that
me
she's...
that she sympathizes with my position. She told me
I'm
she
sure she
thinks
does.
that I'm correct, but
she
she's
is.
running into a problem with county council.
There she is. Okay.
So,
Let me ask one additional question, David. If for some reason Karen put it on the ballot, would the Wallace Lake Estates Board have recourse against the county for Karen having done so?
Yeah, they would probably sue, and then the taxpayers would probably sue for waste of taxpayer funds because she has no duty to do anything until their board takes action. So.
I'm not an election law.
I want to go back to something I said earlier, which is that it may be, given the timing, the wrong thing to do to spend our time with the legal counsel, and that, in fact, what this is a decision of the Wallace Lake Estates WCSD. And toward that end, I am asking what kind of conveyance might help leverage that organization to make a timely choice today. All the discussion about lawsuits, we'll know the answer in a year or two or three, but it seems that we have one day to try to figure this out in a way that gets something done. Again, I'm asking for any suggestions that might get us there. Is there any conveyance that can be made from this board within the parameters of what we can accomplish in this agenda item that would help move this to a reasonable and fair conclusion?
I don't know. I'm assuming that you've exhausted your communication with your board.
The board has made the decision not to do anything. And I, for one, can't see why the inaction of any party involved with this should stop the entire process. If the board doesn't want to respond in their allotted time, which is 10 days from presentation, then the clerk recorder should say, you guys had your chance, I'm proceeding with what I have to do. And then she should send out her proper notices.
Your plight here, Mr. Holland, is well represented and appreciated. The fact is that we're trying to decide what is legal for this board or for you or for the county clerk to do, and we're relying on advice from counsel like anyone would. So we're trying to find a way to bring this to resolution, but that's the reasons for this.
I would be happy to meet with anybody to resolve this, if that is indeed possible. If we need between Karen and David and you and anybody else, I'd be happy to meet there. But I don't see why I should have to go through this machination because I qualified that thing for the ballot. It should go on the ballot, without question. They're doing the same thing in the North San Joaquin Water Conservation District. Issues are similar. It's on the ballot. They don't seem to have a problem. I don't know that why Calaveras and San Joaquin counties, see things, totally different. The law is the same for both.
All right. I'm going to extend time further and ask that Karen Varney come to the podium and express herself on this subject, but before she does, I would like to also chime in with Bill and say that this is a person who just about always knows what she's doing, and this may be a very tough legal conundrum. It is something that we need to hear from her on. Thank you.
The only thing, thank you. The only thing that I wanted to clarify right now is that today was the deadline that we gave districts, special districts, to get their information to us to be able to put it on the board's agenda for consolidation. If it were found that we were to consolidate this, the board has coming up on the next Monday, or Tuesday, excuse me, the next board meeting, and a resolution consolidating different special districts to go on the November ballot.
So using an addendum
That's the only
process,
thing I wanted to-
conceivably, we would have a week to try to resolve this in a friendly manner?
Yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to clarify, is that our
So
deadline
today is not the...
is that we have to have everything to you by the 22nd, the meeting of the 22nd, if you were to order consolidation of special districts.
All right. I believe Supervisor Thomas wished to speak.
That was the question I wanted to ask, is if today was truly the drop dead date.
Okay.
But I would like to express my opinion that it seems rather paradoxical that the initiative process is supposed to be the mechanism to let people express their unwillingness to go along with a particular board's action, and it's going nowhere. It seems like that they have a preponderance of indication from the citizens that they would like things to go differently than the board has chosen to have them go, and it just seems rather odd that they wouldn't have a chance to vote on it. So anyway, I hope that we can get a resolution on this before next week.
Toward that end, it would seem, if it's the sense of the board, that we should send a conveyance, at least a request that this board make one of its two choices and let us know what that would be by next Monday. I think that would at least get started a last-ditch attempt at dialogue. I don't know what the wish of the board is at this point. But
Yes, Bill,
I think Bill-
it's Bill's district, and I'd like to hear from him.
Well, certainly there's been a lot of consternation over this. The board, let me ask if there are any Wallace Lake District board members here today. Imagine that. So, Mr. Holland, would you come up here, please? To give this board, and perhaps those people that are interested in watching, an idea of this difference that you're having with the board, can you briefly tell us what contacts, what arguments, what conversations you have had with that board, and what is the issue here?
Well, number one, the issue is not germane to the discussion, because there is nothing in Elections Code 9300 that
Let me put it this way,
deals with
then. Can you
content.
briefly tell us what this initiative is
Briefly
directed
for your
toward?
information, this is a water rate initiative. The folks in Wallace are upset that their rates are going sky high with no seeming end in sight, and that money is being spent unwisely.
So your initiative basically is an attempt to control the rise in the rates of domestic water supply.
That is correct.
Okay. Very well. And, well, you've had these discussions with the board about your, what I'm trying to ask is there any room for compromise between your stand and where the board is now?
We have attempted to do that. We had a meeting with the president and the vice president of the board about, I'd say, a month or so ago, in order to try to resolve this. They were steadfast in not budging, one iota. So I don't see that there's, any wiggle room, on the board. They have taken the position that they're going to basically ignore this and hope it goes away.
Okay, well, let me ask my board. I'm just slightly reluctant to ask for an official communication from this board to that board without us fully understanding the ramifications of that. I'm not sure what to. From the discussion here today, regardless of what seems right and logical, I'm not convinced I know where we stand with regard to the law. And I think that's a discussion that we need to have with perhaps our counsel or some representative from the Secretary of State's office. Given that, I would encourage this board to make such communication to that board. But I'm a little confused.
It seems to me rather than the board making it, you should
I can do that if that's the wish of the board.
You should go down there and say it's the sense of this board, if you're supportive of it, it's the sense of our board that we want a communication. We want to communicate. We want you to take a position one way or the other.
Bill, you might want to ask him. You might want to ask them, what's your reason?
Oh, exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
It might solve a lot of problems.
Okay. And David, if I understand correctly, they had two actions available to them.
Adopt the ordinance, reducing the fees, or forwarding the petition to the elections official for processing.
Okay.
If they adopt it, then it's moot.
Yes.
Because it's in force.
Done.
Done. Okay, so those are their two actions. Now, they may have to call a special meeting or something, but
Yeah.
I mean, all we can do is make the request. And if Bill's willing to go down and meet with them and make that request, and then we'll see what the response is. But I think you as citizens, need to communicate with them also.
One final
I'm sure you
question.
have.
If they continue to ignore this, then what would your position be?
Well, I guess my position is to follow the law. And
It's not like we have a choice.
Counsel for that. And I'm not an election law attorney. I'm not an attorney at all. I know absolutely zip about election law. So someone's going to have to give some guidance to the board, and that'll be county council.
Okay, I would encourage possibly an disinterested attorney to, since there seems to be a polarized opinion, that the county council's already made up his mind, that maybe a disinterested party attorney in some other department or something make that decision?
Well, I think we have a good county council. I'm not willing to ask county council to excuse themselves. I'm not, maybe the other board members are.
Yeah. Mr. Holland, would you we have a very short agenda today. You can remain around to contact me or leave your contact information here with the clerk so that I may contact you in order to learn how to contact the chair of your board and those members.
Okay.
In fact, because item 8 is not on the agenda, this will be an extremely short, depending on how many more public comments we have, meeting. But I do think it makes sense because of the timing to stay around and try to work this thing through. Again, if this is going to be resolved in a timely way, I would believe that this would best be discussed in the realm of policy rather than law. I think we're going to have a real hard time getting a legal agreement between now and Monday. But there's certainly an opportunity for the fact-finding that Bill's talking about and some effort after ascertaining that to convey the sentiments to the board, to your board.
Okay. I will not be able to stick around to do that. I'm absent from my business in Lockford already for half an hour, and it'll be another 45 before I get back there, so I really need to get back there. But I can, certainly make time available at some other point to discuss this. So I'll leave my phone and contact information. You can contact Catherine. She's got my name and number and everything, so we can get together in that matter.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who wish to speak on an item not on the agenda?
My name's Chris Williams. I'm from San Andreas. I'd just like to ask a question about procedure under the Brown Act here today. I know there's people here on items that want to be heard previous to item 10, and I don't want to slow them down, but the Brown Act requires that you allow public comments on closed session items, and I just want to confirm that you're going to do that, and I'll come up then.
We have allowed that, and we will do that today, and the time to do that would be under public comment.
On item 10.
No, usually we did it right in front of the agenda.
And right in front of the agenda item.
Whatever. No, I think either way. You can do it either way.
Okay, before item 10.
All right, we'll do it after correspondence and before item 10.
I have a clarification. Since when did we allow comments on closed session? I mean, if Mr. Williams wants to say anything on something that isn't on the agenda, it's fine, but closed session items are closed session items. They are not open for public comment on closed session. And
well, if there was...
I don't know where it is in the Brown Act,
Steve, as chair,
Mr.
made the
Williams.
decision that at an earlier meeting, I want to say maybe
Yeah, he
a month
just
ago,
made the comment, but there wasn't,
that the board would allow comments prior to going into closed session. That doesn't mean we have to respond to them, and that doesn't mean you have to say anything coming out of closed session that isn't required by law. But,
it's often, I've seen it happen before. You have an item that's clearly identifiable, a particular litigation, a particular labor negotiation session. People have commented about that, but the one on today is really not appropriate because it's just not appropriate because it's not a matter of.
If they want to comment, they can comment now on it.
Yeah.
But we've never, I know Steve made that comment in board because Mr. Kelly wanted it done, but I don't support that.
Actually, I made that comment because I believe the public has a right to comment on matters that come up before the board. The county council is, however, suggesting that this item, because it is a personnel item, it's not even announced what personnel item it is, although there are many people that presume something. And that's, there may be many personnel issues before this board, including our own behavior. So I would imagine we'll have lots of things to talk about in various closed sessions. I would like advice from county council on this particular item and how to proceed. It is different. It's substantially different from the other matter, which was a point of litigation that was announced in the agenda.
Again, without a particularly identifiable subject, I don't think it's appropriate to have any comment other than a public comment in general.
All right.
Period.
All right. In that case,
but that's the same thing, David. A public comment.
Yes.
Public comments are under this. What's the difference?
Well, here's the difference, and I'm going to take a chair's ruling on this. We will entertain, because it is not identified specifically, that means it's not on the agenda, and therefore, or at least whatever people might speculate may or may not be part of this. I will take the comment under public comment, which is up right now. All right, so on any topic that is not obviously on the agenda, I'll make that ruling from the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just
before you speak, let me just say that we need to come up with a good policy here. I'm not comfortable with saying that the public can comment on closed sessions except when the board doesn't want them to comment on closed sessions. The public either has a right to comment on closed sessions or let's not comment on closed sessions.
You're talking about something capricious. He's not making a capricious statement. He's saying when there's something identifiable in a closed session. Many closed sessions are identifiable.
You're leaving an awful lot of discretion to the board then as to when the public can speak and when the public can't speak. And either they need to know that they're speaking under public comments or they need to know consistently they can speak in front of a closed session. Irregardless of what the closed session says today or any other, saying the same thing under public comments as in front of the closed session, I don't see what the difference is.
I think we should have a policy. We should make it clear about the different circumstances that might arise, and under no circumstances should we make any effort to deny the public the right to speak on any issue that they wish to speak on, and I have made the chair's ruling that this is the appropriate moment for any items not clearly on the agenda. So whatever you may speak to, go ahead.
Well, just with regard to the issue under the Brown Act, I think Supervisor Trine is correct. If you can get around having public comment just by your phraseology in casting the agenda item, then you're just getting around the Brown Act. And let me just read to you from the Attorney General's discussion of speaking before, taking public testimony before closed sessions. The public testimony requirement appears to apply to closed sessions as well as open meetings. Accordingly, this office believes that it would be prudent for legislative bodies to afford the public an opportunity to comment on closed session items prior to the body's adjournment into closed session. I've represented a lot of public entities, and that's what we have always done.
As we are today.
Well, immediately before that. Really, I'm not trying to make hard work of this. I was just trying to get the people up here who had a different item to talk about, but I can talk about mine now. I just would ask that, hope that you have listened carefully to the public discussion, especially what happened last week, and that you don't misgauge the breadth of the opposition to the existing CDA director and to the things that have gone on in the CDA. The people that spoke before you last week weren't just getting up and defending the grand jury report. They were stating their own conclusions about what they have witnessed for the last 2 years. We want representation, not misrepresentation. We want representation and not dissension. We want representation and not misdirection. We want representation and not repression. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of that earlier issue I heard about, but again, it sounds to me like the voice of the people in a petition referendum mode have been squashed by the legal counsel's opinion of the board, whose very action they're trying to get some relief from. And I'll tell you what, I personally feel that I have had no voice in this government. Nobody listens to the people. And it's time, and I hope you'll take that to heart. I mean, Mr. Claudino worries about sarcasm. Why shouldn't there be sarcasm at this point? You haven't done anything. You haven't done anything to remedy the situation. There's no leadership. Now, the last thing I would say is this is rumors. I've heard rumors that the board, if they actually consider termination of the CDA director, that they're looking for some severance package. If that isn't already in her contract, then don't do it. As a taxpayer, I ask you not to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I realize we get off on a different topic. Can I make one comment on the previous topic?
No, the answer is no, but you can come after this speaker.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm from Wallace, and I'm not going to talk about the referendum, and I'm not going to talk about water. Is that interesting?
Well, glad to see there's something new in Wallace.
Well, no, this isn't Wallace. This is you guys.
Okay.
And I understand why the public is upset.
I'm sorry. Could you identify yourself,
Jackie
please?
Neal from Wallace. I'm sorry. The public is upset, the downturn in the real estate market, the high price of food and fuel, but this has gotten into shameful politics, and I would just ask this board and the people in the room to keep politics out of any decisions made. I have stood before the Planning Commission in direct opposition to what Stephanie Moreno was saying. I wanted a fully IR. You know, she said mitigated negative declaration, go. But she has, through the whole thing, given me the right to my opinion and given me time to state that opinion. And so she is listening to the public. And I'm just afraid that so much of this witch hunt is political, and I would just ask the board and some of the public to try to squelch that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Studley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just pondering the dilemma that seems to be posed to this board by the speaker 2 times ago now. I wonder
Are we on Wallace?
On the Wallace issue.
Wallace?
I wonder if the matter might...
Could you also identify yourself?
I'm sorry. I'm David Studley. I live in Mountain Range.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if the problem might be at least ameliorated if this board were to take the position that the failure of the water board to act in any manner tolls the statute for filing the petition. And therefore, the board either could suspend its rules if it's a local ordinance, or if it's a state ordinance, could vote to extend the time to file that petition for 2 weeks until people can sit down and sort it all out and get both sides in with perhaps Supervisor Claudino or someone else. And it still wouldn't seem to me to eliminate the possibility that it could be put on the ballot if it were necessary. And if you need some authority to do that, you might conclude that the failure of the previous board to act within its time limits extended your time to act and, diffuse this situation before the expiration of time at the end of the day, if that in fact is true. Suggestion.
Looks like we've got till Monday now.
Yeah, and we have to consolidate it, David, so it has to be done by next Tuesday. I guess to get it on, we have to consolidate it with the November election.
Other items from the public. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Pat Bailey. I'm from Wallace. And of course, you probably already know where I stand on the petition. I'm very disappointed that we were told we could not vote. That's enough of that. I don't want to give you whiplash, but I'm going to get back to Stephanie Moreno. She asked for an independent audit as one of her first acts when she came to Calaveras County. The Board of Supervisors approved spending the money for an independent auditor. The Board of Supervisors approved hiring personnel to help combine the planning and building departments into one well-run department. The Board of Supervisors approved offering incentives to get this help. The Board of Supervisors approved hiring Mentier to work on the general plan, but dumping all of this on the desk of one person wanting it done yesterday is unrealistic. Not giving support to make the changes necessary so that the broken checks and balances of Calaveras County will be open, transparent, and fair sets anyone up for failure. If you don't like the answers of any audit or anything that comes up, why does there always seem to be enough time and money given to do it again, but never enough time and money given to make it right the first time? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak on an item not on the agenda or not apparently on the agenda?
Don't want to wear you out. Catherine Jackson, and you know I'm from Wallace. My issue is around the grand jury report, and there's no doubt that it's led to a crisis in this community and on the board and within departments, especially concerning the Board of Supervisors and the CDA director. I am a past member of a grand jury, and what I wanted to suggest is there needs to be some further dialogue and investigation in the grand jury process itself. I know we were trained to be 19 sitting grand jurors. Because the public is naive, training was offered, and that training included support from county council constantly at the will and request of the foreman, as well as any access to the presiding judge. I believe there's been a process failure that could have been a training error. It could have been that simple. But to see that, and they can vote as a majority to either accept or reject any complaint coming in. They certainly rejected mine. So the issue here before me is, why would a sitting grand jury not identify the extreme divisiveness and political tone of certain requests that were coming into the board? So all I'm saying is, while a grand jury has recommendations and the public eagerly awaits to hear the different departments and responses from the grand juror's recommendation, a grand jury never recommends to further investigate itself, especially to, improve the following grand jury's year. So all I want is that our Board of Supervisors be able to conduct your business with civility and fearlessness in your own convictions and a tolerance of any opposing vote or viewpoint. This is the part that we do not want to see public transparency. If you need to duke it out somewhere else, get it out of your board agenda. Thank you.
That's a point, I believe, well taken.
My name is Louis Boitano from Copperopolis, and I do have some prepared remarks, but given the context, I think I'll modify them somewhat. My purpose in being here today was to express my dismay over the behavior, frankly, of some members of the Board of Supervisors at the last meeting, and I think comments that precede me are well taken. You proved to me earlier in the meeting with regard to the discussion on Wallace that you do have the ability to wrestle with difficult problems and be civil about it. And I would urge you to continue that behavior rather than engaging in accusations and so forth among yourselves, because it becomes, frankly, an embarrassment to the county and to this body. So to that end, I encourage you to engage in good behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Jeff Davidson from Valley Springs. And I just, last week I gave a statement on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. Today I'm going to speak for myself. And my comments are this. I think that there is, I think we're all pretty much in agreement that the personal accusations and things that have gone on here are really not the issue and really aren't my business, and I really don't care about that sort of thing. But I do care about whether or not we can continue to get capital investment in this county. We need it, clearly, and even though we're in a nationwide recession, I still believe it's the action of the moratorium and other actions have reduced the capital investment in our community, and therefore we're creating a, as I've called it before, an anti-business climate. And you don't have to be personally anti-business. That's not the issue. Is the work getting done? Is there capital investment? Just because you don't want to be anti-business doesn't mean you're not, because you have to actually do things to make it happen. And one of the problems that I'm having personally, and I've spoken to several of you supervisors directly about this, is, I submitted a project that has a 17-acre commercial component on existing commercial property with water and sewer, and it has a residential component, an R3 component, and it builds a road between two highways where traffic backs up significantly every day during school. I've submitted that project over 19 months ago now, before the moratorium, and it was deemed complete by the county. We contrary to some of the other developments that have been argued about here, requested to go into an immediate environmental impact report. We said that we wanted to waive the notice of determination to allow the board to decide whether or not they needed one. We requested it. And to this date, the county has not processed that and mailed out the notice of preparation so we can begin our environmental impact report. Since that time, 60 of the acres have burned down. And you know, that's a side issue. It's just frustrating that so much time has gone by. And I spent last night looking through California Environmental Quality Act, and I'm sure most of you have studied the issue very well, but you know, it seems to me it says 60 days. You know, 60 days to get that thing out. And I just wonder if we can take a look at it and see how many projects are actually being processed in that time frame. Because it doesn't seem to say that there are wholesale exemptions from those rules. You know, there is protection of speedy processing. And when we're talking about multi-million-dollar investments, the money that's being in holding costs and interest payments for some are becoming too onerous, and projects are going to drop by the wayside. And then again, when we get a reputation for not being able to process something for 3 or 4 years, even relatively simple projects, and I'm not saying mine's simple. You know, like I said before, we recognize there are impacts, and we want to try to resolve them, but we can't even get to them. You know, but if it takes 3 years to process a simple project, and I know that there's a project across the street from me, another commercial project that has a PD designation that has been over 24 months and hasn't got to the Planning Commission. I understand it's finally agendized. I know it's been postponed because I get the notices. I know it's been postponed 3 or 4 times. You know, this is not helping the economic development. So, you know, while I think we just need to forget about the personal part of this argument, you know, what I want to know is, I mean, and I want you to consider is the work getting done? And I will just say for myself, I can't tell you that. I wish it were, but it's not. And so I just want you to consider that later today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carlos Dutton, and I'd like to just say something to Bill Claudino. Bill, thank you for your service.
Do I need to stand? I've just had knee surgery.
Okay, don't stand, please. Thank you for the service to the county. And several months ago, when rumors started circulating about you and possible romantic relations with the CDA director, you came to me and you said they're untrue. I believe you. Bill is a man of his word, and when he told me that, I took it as fact, and I encourage everybody to take that as fact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Darren Borgadolin. These are my 2 children. We used to live in Valley Springs, California. We sold a house there. We moved to Mountain Ranch, where we have been violated in every direction. I've called Mr. Lewinsky, who is our representative, and I've never been returned any phone call. And I've written letters, which I've never had a return on. Anyway, my problem has been I can't get a building permit to put a roof over my own kids' heads. Okay? We've been living in a tent for 3 years. Okay, as far as all this stuff we're talking about, it's a joke. Okay? I've pulled permits for a well. I've pulled permits for septic. I've pulled permits for shops. I've pulled permits for a house. Okay? They came out and red tagged my project because the building that I put up never got an inspection for its foundation. Well, when I called and they never came out and looked, and it was raining every week, and my trenches were full of mud, and it's a real pain to clean those things out, and there's already steel in them, I finally took pictures and went ahead and poured. So anyway, I built a building because I had to. I pulled a second set of permits for a well and a septic. They never came out, and when they did come out for my well permit, they said, oh, that's too close to this county road. Well, I didn't need encroachment fees, an encroachment permit, because
They couldn't prove to me that that was a county road, but somehow or another, the county's claiming it. I own 60 acres that has this road that comes into a dead end. Why would the county go on a private homestead and claim something they have no business on? It's beyond me. Well, it isn't beyond me. I got some other factors in there that we got a cult that lives behind us that seems to pay a lot of people in this county to get their way. And when they want their way, they get it now. I put two posts out in front of my property to put a gate up. Okay? The county came out and stole them posts. There was never a gate put in. There was never anybody that hampered that. But I still had a right to have 2 posts on the side of that road, whether the county liked it or not. Okay? We went through litigation with our neighbors who supposedly got a prescriptive easement. Okay? And what they got was what they used, was about 10 feet. It ain't legal. You can't pass on it. I got the ability through this courtroom to fence both sides of that road. Now I got to spend $20,000 on fencing. To have you guys come back out and condemn the road because with my 813 you can't, and this law that passed over the vote about stealing private property for private entities got shot down, so you can't steal my property anymore. And you can't stop me from fencing it, and you can't make it a legal access to my neighbors. And every one of my neighbors has their own legal access that was never, ever, ever. In order to build in this county, you have to have, first of all, proof that you own the property, and second of all, that you have an easement to it. And it's supposed to be developed with the building that you do. Okay, my neighbor has an $8 million home on 600 plus acres with 20,000 feet of metal building, 2 other houses on it, and he pays as much taxes as I do. Pretty interesting, ain't it? Anyway, I'm here to say that 2.5 years in plan check is a joke. And I don't know what to do about it because I can't get a permit, and I'm tired of living in a tent. And as far as the guy that just stood up here and commented on Claudino, I used to live across the street in a place on Campo Seco called Buckbourne Lane. And I watched this man that worked for the county and got paid by the county as a police officer pull up in front of this lady's house and sit there 40 hours, 20 hours a week. So he's not impressing me with whatever's going on here. I don't believe it. Because if he could get paid by the county...
No, Highway Patrol, that's the state.
Yeah, and I would really ask that people try to tone the personal attack machine down just a bit. You have all, over the course of the last number of months and years...
Your guys' decisions directly affects our lives.
...brought a tremendous number of issues which this board has to grapple with. Setting a tone, setting a table for those kinds of decisions is something that might be the order of the day here. My hope is that we can refrain from denigrating people or process any further than we've already managed to do. And as regards Struckman Road, if there's anybody in this room who thinks that the legal access issue is a simple and straightforward thing, I invite you to that neighborhood, which has been suing each other for the better part of the last 2 years.
Well, now I have to sue the county because I brought out 30 ton of rock and put it alongside my road, just like the judge ordered me to be able to build a fence on. And the county came out with an officer and held me at gunpoint while they loaded all my rock and drove off with it. Did they push it off to the side of my property? Did they pile it? No, they took my property and left. And then last week, a county official from the building department showed up with a sheriff, and when I went out to talk to him, they both jumped in their car and ran. So what kind of politics is that? You can't even address the issues? I'm done.
Thank you. And I see we have another speaker.
Oh, yeah.
It's just one of those days.
Oh, yeah. I've been holding off a long time.
We actually have missed you. Thanks for coming today.
Welcome back.
My name is Frank Ginger, and I'm here because of a handicap issue. And Safe Smart, this transit bus line, thinks they can park wherever they want, and about 20 times they blocked me. I have did everything humanly possible, all being nice, and told them not to do that, and they keep doing it. I've called the sheriff's department. I've taken pictures. One of the ladies was so blatant that she
blocked me into the handicap, went in the store and did her shopping. One of the neighbors had to go get her out of there. The only thing I'm asking, that's against the law. And she's done it. The drivers all do it. There's a red line, and they all go 10 feet past it. Now, I've gone to the sheriff. They say call the sheriff. By the time the sheriff gets out there, they're gone. I show them pictures of the buses blocking me, and they say the pictures are no good. I just want to know, what do you want me to do? I can be nice or I can be mean. I try to be nice. But it's against the law for them to block a handicap parking.
All right. I would hope that the person responsible for transit might be listening in on this broadcast.
That's why I'm here.
Public Works, I would suggest that you meet with the person responsible for public transit in the Public Works Department and ask that they issue instructions to all bus drivers to stay out of handicap red zones or any other place they are not supposed to.
On Saturday, they park in the walkway in between the two handicap, but you can't even get in the store. You got wheelchairs. Right. I've seen it, but now I'm going to take pictures. I want something done. I really do.
Sir, I believe you straight up. I don't think we need pictures. What we need is for you to convey your complaint to the person responsible for public transit in the Public Works Department and make sure that that person follows through with instructions to the drivers.
Okay, thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the board from the public on matters not on the agenda or not apparently on the agenda?
I'm Diane Gray from the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce, and I wanted to let you know that we had our Economic Summit on Friday, and most of you were there, and I think we can all consider it a big success. We had well over 167 people register it in advance, and I think we had a lot of people show up that hadn't registered. And so we heard mostly all positive comments, and so I think we're really pleased with what came out of it. We had a meeting of the committee yesterday, and we kind of reviewed the results of the different sessions, and we've decided that the next step is that we will first publish a summary, which I will do, and then make that available to the public and everyone that attended. And then following that, we're going to have another meeting we're hoping for July 30th to develop a strategy kind of for the next steps and how we'll move forward. So I just wanted to tell you that we're really pleased for you, and thank you for your support, and I just want to let you know where we stand with that.
Thank you. It was a superb event. A lot of good people showed, a lot of good dialogue. Anybody else wish to address the board?
Now, you know I didn't drive the hundreds of miles from Burson and just to stay quiet. Wouldn't be like me. It's fascinating this morning. First off, this isn't the fascinating part. My name's Darrell Rusk. I live at 101 Melcher Lane, Burson. Mailing address, Valley Springs. That way they deliver the mail. If you need my phone number, it's a little personal. Anyway, the fascinating part is people have come before you during public comment. Some frustrated, some may be angry, some complimentary. And isn't it beautiful? We're at the closest level of government to the people, right here. And there is interaction, there is argument, there's debate, and you all are very patiently putting up with us. And I want to compliment you on that. This is terrific. This is the way our government should work. Thank you.
Thanks for reminding us of that, Darrell. It's appreciated. And now, will this be the last word in public comment, or would anybody else like to address the board under this agenda item? As I announced previously, item number 8 will be postponed, and the Mountain Ranch Road Safety Improvement Project will be considered by this board next week on the 22nd in the morning. We will now move to a review of correspondence, reports, and various matters of concern. Let's start with Supervisor Tryon.
I do not have anything to bring before the board today, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Thomas.
Okay. As I previously stated, I want to reemphasize the Prop 8 orientation sessions that will be occurring on August 6th at the Jenny Lynn Firehouse and at August 13th at Copperopolis Firehouse. This week, let's see. I intend to go to a legal access meeting this afternoon at, I think it's at the, is it the library or CalWorks? Does anybody know for sure? Anyway, if anybody can, CalWorks? Okay. And that'll be this afternoon, 2 o'clock or something like that. But that's all of my board responsibilities this week.
Supervisor Callaway.
My board-appointed meetings are just Calaveras Public Power Authority on Wednesday. I will say the Visitors Bureau is having in their series of getting to know the county Thursday at the Black Bear Inn in Arnold. I would like all of my colleagues to be there. How's that for a local advertisement? Other than that, the only board appointed is CPPA.
Which is?
Calaveras Public Power Authority. I said that,
You're always...
didn't I? I know. I hate acronyms.
Supervisor Blandino.
Yesterday I attended a meeting that I should advise this board that I attended. It was a meeting of the Public Works Department regarding the status of the Beal Ranch Road, Central Hill Road issue that you visited shortly before I came on the board. Apparently there was some information that was supposed to come back at that time regarding the status of those roads. It seems to have never gotten accomplished. Now the issue has come up again whether the county is going to keep those roads on their county-maintained system or allow the abandonment of them. And so the Public Works Director has contacted the County Council's office, and we're going to revisit that, and you'll probably have more meetings regarding that issue in the very near future. Tomorrow, let's see. Tonight I have the Calaveras County Historical Society Board of Directors. In the way of advertisements, I believe tomorrow night is the Music in the Park at Turner Park right here in San Andreas at 6:30 p.m. And on Thursday evenings, there's the Emergency Medical Services Oversight Committee at 8 p.m.
Thank you, Bill. I wanted to say something before announcing my stuff, which is that Claudino's actually come back from surgery only the last few days ago, and I think is bearing up rather well under the circumstances, and I wanted to thank him for being so dedicated. Most people would have taken the day off. And,
I missed the abuse.
You know, after surgery, I guess this looks, this may make surgery look like more of a walk in the park than you thought. Or maybe it's just a continuum you seek. At any rate, I was also at the meeting yesterday in Public Works, and it raised an issue that I think is important for us to consider as a board, and I think it will be coming back as a policy question. This has to do with a number of roads that have not exactly been legally abandoned, but continue to be through a number of our larger ranches and farms in the county. The problem recently has been that people are using those roads not to get from one place to another, but to come and carry out various acts of mayhem, which is causing significant problems for cattle ranchers, and this is the issue that came before us. These are roads that used to be used a century or so ago and have remained on the public record. So the issue that will be brought is a fairly narrow one as we deal with the right to farm and the question of being able to sustain successful cattle operations in the county. How will we deal with these public access through old roads that may be better abandoned at this point for the success of the remaining ranches to be able to continue operations? This will come to a public meeting after the Department of Public Works weighs pros and cons and does a good cost-benefit analysis. There actually are funds and other things that are attached to these things, and we need to calculate it out carefully. I will be this week at Motherlode Job Training in Sonora. I'm on that board, and that starts at 2 o'clock. We'll be talking after that with the Stanislaus National Forest and try to get some forest stewardship work going in the northern and eastern part of our county. It's kind of stalled, and we're trying to deal with fire safety issues. I will be at the Blue Mountain Community Renewal Council board meeting on Friday the 18th, and that's all I have to report, except that I found the Economic Summit to be uplifting. It brought people, I had in my session people who were timber operators and people who were suing them, and we managed to come up with a number of things that we agreed upon, things that we would help advance the economics of the county, and I found that to be encouraging. I believe similar dialogues happened all the way across all 7 of the tracks for the day, and I believe this is a process that has good signs of actually not just enlightening us or getting us to know one another, but actually getting some things done. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and City of Angels for partnering up all together with the county to make that happen, and look forward to next steps. That's all I have to report, and I'll pass the ball to our county CAO.
Who pivots and passes it to County Council.
County Council's had enough. How about you, Carol? All right. This concludes the public section of our meeting. We will reconstitute ourselves.
Steve, let me just ask one question of the board, and that is, we're going to go into closed session, and then I guess my question is, should we continue number 9 so we can come back into regular session and announce any actions that took place in closed session? Or what I don't want to do is get a whole lot of speculation going, because we go into closed session and then stop and come back into Board of Equalization. And maybe that's a discussion to take place in closed session. But I think it would be worthwhile to continue item 9 until after the closed session, so we have a venue to come back into regular session if the board so chooses as a consequence of the closed session. And if the board in that closed session decides there's nothing to be announced, then we can just basically adjourn the meeting.
I don't support that, Supervisor Tryon. That's sort of out of character for what we've normally done, and I don't want to start making rule changes or policy changes or procedure changes.
I guess the question is how.
Why don't we?
I mean, I just don't want a whole lot of speculation if
doesn't it
come out of this thing, without ever an announcement being made.
Doesn't it make sense for us, before we know what announcement is to be made, to actually have the discussion that might lead to the announcement and then make a decision as to how it will be conveyed?
Yes, but if there's something that needs to be said in open session, I think we should continue item 9 just so we have that venue. It doesn't mean we have to use it, but we would have a venue.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
We would have a venue then to come back and say something, whatever it is we decide we wish to say.
Fair enough. We'll poll the board on this. Supervisor Tryon?
I'm for continuing it, though I think we need to have the discussion, and most likely there will be nothing to report after the closed session, but I think we should have that venue available to us.
Supervisor Claudino.
I'm in favor of doing it the same way we've done it ever since I've been on the board.
Supervisor Callaway.
The same protocol we followed.
Supervisor Thomas.
I'm going to hold my tongue, but I have no interest in keeping item 9 open.
I would like to make sure that we have, in whatever decisions we make, a clear conveyance. I do not wish to change our protocol, but I wish to change the clarity of our conveyance and hope that we'll find a way to accomplish that today.
Just a point of clarification, Steve. It's not clear to me what the board just did. Are you going to reconvene and report any possible action?
No, the board said no. We will not continue item 9, so we will have no venue.
Well, not on item 9. You're going to take an action. The whole 10, and you could reconvene and let us know what's happening.
Well, not if we don't continue item 9, because we're adjourning. That's why we would have to continue item 9 so we can reconvene in regular session.
We can make any announcements that we wish to make through staff. We can do this in a press release. We can do this by posting it in a number of places.
No, we can't.
But normally, what we do is we report the following week. The standard operations is that the following week it is announced any action taken in a closed session on the following Tuesday. So we'll have those choices.
Mr. Chairman, you described that as your protocol. My understanding is that if you take any final action in a closed session, you have to come back and announce the final action and the actual vote by person.
Well, we'll be listening to our counsel's advice on this topic, and we will act appropriately as a board as we try to wrestle with the many issues that have cropped up over this last couple of years. So at this point, without further conversation, we will move to our closed session. This meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene as the Board of Equalization at 1:30 this afternoon in this place.